Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Practical Wisdom. In this series, we're covering the fear of success. And I'd like to introduce to you today both a friend and a mentor and a colleague of mine, Tim McCauley, who's done a lot of work and coaching work. So I'm going to ask him to introduce himself a little bit, and then we're going to get right into it. So Tim, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jackie? Happy
I'm
birthday.
always, oh, it's my birthday. Thank you. You snuck that in there. Yep.
Yeah, I
I'm
had to.
happily 43 years young. So
Very
it's a
cool.
good day. So
Just about.
how are you doing though? Good
Doing
day?
great. Doing wonderful. Down
Awesome.
here in windy, sunny Frisco, Texas.
Yeah. It looks sunny there already, even though it's a little early in the day. So
Yeah.
well, it's noon for us both, I think, right?
Yeah. We're at the
Yeah.
same time.
So why don't you just tell people just a little bit about who you are and what you do so that we have some context and then we can dive in.
All right. Tim McCauley, come from a little small town in Buffalo, Ohio. Grew up a little bit of a hedonist and got into self-development the hard way. Had to. Got into it. Did some counseling and stuff for a while and kind of stumbled my way into coaching via sober coaching and just kind of worked it from there. Written a couple books, write a little bit of a blog from time to time, um, and then kind of fell off for a while. Decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore and just loving my life and bouncing around the country with me and my wife. And after my dad passed away, I reached out to a bunch of people and heard a guy that I could help, and I said, "Hey, can I help you?" And he said, "Yeah." And then he encouraged me to keep helping people, and it just kind of blossomed from there. And back into coaching, back into
Yeah.
love and life.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky. I don't even know how long I've known you. It feels like a really long time, but I've seen you go through a few seasons. Um, but I probably met you after you'd kind of gone through some of your more difficult stuff with, getting sober and getting your stuff together that way. But I actually had reached out to you about the same time. My dad passed. And now it's been over a year for me as well.
Yeah.
And that's how, it was after you had started helping people again and we reconnected. And so one of the first people I thought of when we decided to do this interview on the fear of success was you, because I might be projecting a bit here, but I would have to say um, that's a big part of your journey has been being afraid to stand in the shoes of who Tim is and Tim the
Just getting
man.
cold chills.
Uh, Sorry about that. So I think it's just a great opportunity to sort of, because you've gone through some of that mess on your own, maybe there's some things that, you can help the other listeners with that can also help them kind of move out of some fear or transmute that fear into something else that can help them get closer to success.
Mm.
So with that being said, could you tell me what your definition of success is?
That's actually one of the first questions that anybody should ask if they think that they're having fear of success, because it's a convoluted thing. If when you break down your own definition of success, and you see what the key elements of success are for you, for me, it's um, it's not actually tied to what most people think success is. So when I'm out there chasing the dollar, it always messes me up because that's not what success is for me. You know,
Yeah.
for me, success is I have this idea, black and white idea of the type of person that I want to be. You know, the type of husband that I want to be to my wife, the type of fur baby daddy, the type of friend, the type of coach. Success to me is defining that and showing up like that.
Yeah.
Uh, that's so much easier to do for me and stay that in that state of success and actually manifest the outward croppings of success and take the action steps that will lead to the goals that I have, which um, I'm probably the worst life coach when it comes to that because you'll hear me say, I don't give a shit about your goals, because I really don't. They're just kind of the carrot and the stick part of what we're trying to do. I'm trying to get people to see, again, what they think the success is.
Yeah.
I think that fear of success um, gets mistranslated, and it's so convoluted that it's hard to really define it, because sometimes it manifests out of almost a trauma from the past, you know, or that trauma that gets, once you get to a certain level of excitement outside of your comfort zone, that set point that you already have, and you are trying to get to your next level, all of that trauma comes up and gets trapped into this moment for some people. For other people, it's just that they've never decided, is the definition of success mine, or is it mom and dad's,
Yeah.
or is it the guy from high school, you know?
Yeah.
So
So something interesting that I wondered if we could talk a little bit about that you said a minute ago was your definition of success is defining what that is and then living up to it, right?
yeah,
So what lives in the gap?
fear and anxiety and excitement, and they all feel the same. So when you asked earlier, maybe we could do something to transmute it. The easiest way to transmute the fear of success is take away that word fear and maybe replace it with I'm feeling excited, because they feel pretty much the same. They manifest in different areas of the body, and they'll create certain soothing things, which end up being self-sabotage or whatever it is. But you have to understand not only your definition of how success looks and how you want to show up to make success look, but you also have to kind of go in a little bit deeper and see second, third order consequences of that success, and see if that's not the thing that's holding you back. Because it might not be fear of success. Like, I know some women, some men that are overweight, they're constantly overweight. Even when they do the things they could do to get in shape, they still stay within this realm. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They do the right things, but then they sabotage it here and there. They don't, they cheat here and there on the diet or whatever it is, not realizing that second and third order consequences of getting in shape have a story in their head that make the resistance happen. And that could be trauma based as well. Sexual abuse survivors, why would they ever want to look attractive? You know what I mean? Like, down that road.
Yeah.
Um, Men who have gotten into a healthy relationship with another person and they've gotten a little out of shape, why would they want to be attractive and then have to fight off the urges that come with getting that extra attention? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it could be subtle like that, and it might not be the fear of succeeding, because who fears being in shape? Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
It's so if I could paraphrase, maybe it's not necessarily that we are fearing the success, but we fear the outcomes or consequence of being what we think is successful.
Yeah, yeah, and not only, not even that, it's we fear the story that we think might exist
Yeah.
if we become successful.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I know for, and it's actually really good. So for others that are on here, Tim's been my coach for a long time. And one of the things I really struggled with was that my definition of success had changed, and I didn't know it, right? So I kept living. I wanted to be the next CTO of the universe, right? I was going to be 30 years old and running a software company and be a CTO, and I thought that's what I wanted, and I did, like 20 years ago or more. And what happened was I hadn't stopped or paused or took a moment to redefine what I thought of as success. Um, so I was actually, it was not very motivating to drive hard toward a thing that I didn't want, but I didn't know it because I was just doing what I did. showing up every day, doing the doing, right? Getting things done. Um, so when I think of success, I always, like you said, the very, very first thing you said is first, let us define what it is that success, because maybe you're fearing getting the thing you don't want,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Right. Because like if I own 50 restaurants, I'm thinking, well, I got to manage that many employees. Now I have that responsibility. Why would I want that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And again, if you go down the order of consequences and you keep act like a 5-year-old and ask yourself why, most people, at least the people I work with, it boils back down to love and connection. Why do you want to do that? Well, so I can support my family. Oh, okay. So do you actually need the thing that you're avoiding to actually support your family? Like, could you get by with a little less? I'm reading a really good book right now, by Paul Jarvis, Company of One. That is, it's like an antithesis to hyper growth.
Okay.
He's like, why, like, why get big? Like, it doesn't make sense. You can do pretty well just one person. Like,
Yeah.
why do you need a company and make billions of dollars? If you're a coach, why do you need to be the next Marie Forleo? You know, you
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
You don't need that. You don't need $12 billion in sales.
No.
You
No.
don't need it.
And I think sometimes we forget that fear, excitement, whatever those feelings are our body's alarm system, right? A warning system.
The
And
amygdala.
yeah, so if it, and it doesn't have to make sense because it's just physiology. So if you're fearing something, how is, like, why? Like, do you know what it is you're fearing? Because like you said, it's rarely I'm afraid I'm going to be amazing. Okay. But are you afraid of what others will think of you if you are? Are you
Yeah.
afraid who will stop loving you
Hmm.
if you are?
And how much of the rumination of that fear ever comes true? How much of the rumination of that fear can you actually back up with any data? Like, it's just a story that your mind is making up. We live in this multifaceted universe. We have this innate intelligence in us that runs the show. And then we have this emotional palette and this thinking system in our brain that communicate back and forth. And we're sitting in that thinking that anything that we perceive and make up about the world is true. When 9 times out of 10, we're fearing and we're excited about something that's not actually in the room that we're in. It's not actually in the environment that we're in. So that's why I always, like, as you know, I teach how to do vital environmental scans. Not only the environment of, hey, are all these books aligned with me right now, but also the environment that is getting created inside here. From all kinds of stuff. Like, as we're talking, a guy walking by with his dog, I'm part of my brain is like, he better pick that up.
Yeah.
He better, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if I'm not paying attention to the environment in my mind, I could very well confuse that thing that I'm feeling about that with this thing that I'm doing right here.
Yeah.
And generally that's what I believe we're doing, at least for myself. And by the way, like, I'm like the king of self-sabotage. I publish books before they're ready. I once had a 2,300 letter, 2,300 people. I had about 10 people signing up per day. I was deleting every time I would find someone sign up. I would delete the sign up sheet. I'd be like, how did they sign up? I don't have anything. I would find, they had to dig through my website to sign up for this thing. And still 10 people a day were signing up. And then one day a guy was like, you have the best self-improvement newsletter I read. And I'm on like 200 of them because I'm a marketer. When are you going to sell something? 2 weeks later, I deleted the list. And I was like, I'm going to go be a paddleboarder now. I think
Yeah.
we were in a mastermind at that time.
Yeah. I think I remember that actually happening.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
So with that being said, right, we also sabotage. I think you've said to me even, girlfriend, like, you are successful. What is your problem? Like, I see your CV letter. I've seen your resume. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel that way,
Yeah.
So what can we do? Like if to either, I don't know, is it recognize fear? Is it recognize the stories we're telling? Like what's something we can do when we realize we probably shouldn't quit everything we're doing and go paddleboarding? Or maybe you should have, right? Maybe
No, I
that,
should have actually
yeah,
for me.
yeah,
So I firmly believe that there's no real wrong decisions. You've heard me say that thousands of times. There's no
yeah,
wrong decisions. Just do something. Like, okay, so now back in the day, I don't know if you know who James Clear is,
yeah.
but he and I were we started at about the same time, and I was communicating with him back then, and he was a few hundred, maybe 5,000 somewhere on there ahead of me. So he was less than 10,000 subscribers at the same time that I had 2,300, and I was making sure that no one else could sign up. Um, and we were going to like interview each other for podcasts and stuff like that. Now he continued doing the things that we were doing at that time and got better and better with his theories and got more data to back up his theories and did better research. And he is where he is. You know, great book,
Atomic
bestseller.
Habits, definitely. It's a great
Yeah,
book, great
yeah.
newsletter once a
Oh
week.
yeah,
Does his
absolutely.
3-2-1 stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like his style is very similar to what it was back then, but his personality is still in it. But he really honed in and focused on that message. Now, I assume I could have played out a very similar path, but at the same time, I believe that any decision we make leads us to the moment that we live in now. And I woke up with my wife, and she was on the timeline after I quit and went off and did a different thing
Yeah.
and did the paddleboarding. So to me, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can get back on track. So weird way of getting around that question. Um, if it, let's use a metaphor of, because everybody kind of understands the whole struggle with weight loss, and you hear people that are actually in great shape, um, they will end up saying something to the effect of, you can't out train a bad diet, you know.
Mhm.
Whether it's you're tracking your macros or clean eating or whatever it is that 90% of your results are in the kitchen, not in the gym. And if you don't believe that, look at the hours that you spend in the kitchen and at the table as opposed to the 45 minutes you'll spend in the gym.
Yeah.
So,
We got Zoom bombed.
yeah, we did. You know that guy? Do you have
I
another
don't,
meeting coming
I have
in?
no, I don't. I checked. I don't have any other meetings and I
Okay.
don't know that guy, but I muted him. So maybe he's fearful of showing us whatever it
I
was he
don't
was
know.
going to show us.
So just like in that concept where you can't out train your diet, you can't out you can't outperform your self-image.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's I have this innate default mode in me that says you're a pile of shit and you're never going to amount to anything. You're worthless. It's there. It's, I think, always going to be there. It's just part of that limbic response that wants to pull me back and keep me safe. It's there. Now, you can either go in and deconstruct it and your beliefs and blah, 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 this, that, and the other, or you can just put it, oh, wait, this is my baseline, who I thought I was. And if I achieve the thing I want to achieve and put that here, and you, right, well, if I achieve this and I believe that, then I would be this, this, and this. And you reconstruct that self image because you can be either one. And you practice little by little with that self image, it becomes a lot easier to achieve the things that you want to achieve. But the trick is that um, not to go too fast and not to bring in too much while you're doing it. Because the thing that gets us excited and the thing that has that default, you're a loser or you're a fraud or whatever, the imposter syndrome in it, is in our amygdala, the fight and flight mode in us. And if you think of it as a scale of 1 to 10, like 0 being, well, it would be opposite over there, but 0 being here and 10 being here. Like this is the perfect vision of who I want to be. And this is, I'm a sloth. There's an under engagement up to about 4.5, and then there's over engaged at like 6.5, and then there's a zone of, oh, you know, like I'm a loser or I'm burned out. And then
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a
there's a
zone
middle.
of, yeah, there's this middle ground there. And the trick is to slowly but surely weed out the things that don't need to be there, your to don't list,
Yeah.
and collect the success that is there, you know,
Yeah. So I
and
think
match that self image.
yeah, so I think one of the things I heard from that was, and I fully endorse the idea as well, is um incremental change, right? And like I know my analogies are usually about, I have a daughter who's on the spectrum and she learns differently, or at least that's what we said, right? And actually she just learns out loud. If you want her to learn something, you have to repeatedly do the thing with her that you want her to learn.
Mhm.
And you have to make it be a small enough chunk, right, that she can do it from beginning to end. And
How's
then
that different from any human
I know,
being?
so I literally come back and go, wait a minute, how is that different from any of the rest of us? Well, it isn't. The difference is we are doing that with her out loud.
Mhm.
And the rest of us go, well, I don't like this.
Yeah,
I want to be this. But you have to make the incremental, everyday, small chunk change.
yeah. And
So maybe it's
focus on
just
just
doing it.
one though.
Yeah,
It's just one
exactly.
thing though.
Just one
And
thing.
I use I've used a few times, and I don't even know if the story is real, but it's a story about ninja training. And they plant a seed of corn. So you know how large a corn stalk grows, and
Mhm.
how slow it grows. So that each ninja plants his own seed of corn, and then he has to jump over that seed 100 times every single day. So as the corn grows, he's building up the muscle strength to be able to jump higher and higher. And then whenever he breaks that corn stalk, he plants a new seed and starts again. So habits are like that. Your life is like that. So I always call it Groundhog Day. If you want it, if you think you're stuck in that gap and you're fearing success, then I say I call it applied pessimism. So let's say that you're not allowed to be successful. Let's just, whatever this life is that you're living, this Groundhog Day that you've been trying to escape year after year, day after day, let's say that that's never going away. Now what? How can you be happy? Like what's there that shouldn't be there? Because when you do look at how you show up every day to your life, you're over scheduling, you're under committing, you are creating the flow of your day, but you get stuck in a habitual flow of that day. So if you reverse engineer, if I had it all and I could do everything I wanted, there's usually a hobby that you're thinking in your mind. Mine's surfing or paddling or hiking or something like that. And there's usually people as well. Like you're doing it for them, you're doing it for yourself. So start there. Like, start, oh, wait, you want to be an entrepreneur successful, but you want to do it in a way that you can be the best mom that you can be. Well, why don't you focus on being the best mom you can be and lower your goal, you know? So yeah, let's say that we want to make $1 million a year. That's a really stupid goal. Okay. Do you need $1 million right now? No.
Yeah,
You need, how much do you need?
yeah.
Okay. However much that is, then do that by half. And that's your first goal. That's the first milestone. And you don't even go for that. It's what are the actions and as few and as simple actions I can take to hit that. So if you boil down our type of business, how do you get clients to sign up for coaching? It's usually through demonstration of coaching.
Yeah.
It's usually through a conversation.
Yeah. It's something interesting that occurred to me when you were talking. He- Fear is a habit of being afraid, right? So, if I literally have never thought of it that way before, but if you think of Groundhog's Day, if you feel like you're perpetually living in fear of being this thing you
Fear's
want
an
to be.
addiction, not a habit, an addiction.
Ah, that's an interesting perspective. What
I'm
do
an
you mean by
addict.
that?
I think everything's an addiction.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
That's fair.
but so Alcoholics Anonymous teaches addicts that if you actually read the big book, alcoholism isn't a disease, it's a symptom of a deeper issue in the mind. If you break down that deeper issue of anyone that is addicted to certain behaviors, it's usually something going on that's triggering a uneasy feeling. And they found that this, whatever it is, Twitter, gambling, pornography,
Coping.
stealing, rage, we find a coping mechanism that makes us feel strong again anytime that we feel vulnerable and weak. It all boils down to that word that no one wants to talk about is vulnerability.
Yeah.
Anytime we feel raw and exposed, we have to hide. We have since we were small children, and someone saw who we thought we were at that time, and they said, "That's stupid." And since then, we've been playing this game of hide and seek. That's why I say that if you've felt the pain of being broken, however you've felt it, just make a promise that you'll never heal from that. Because when you've been broken, and whether it's abuse or the loss of somebody that you just can't let go of, it's just harder to be an asshole for some reason. And it's harder to get offended when other people are, because you're just looking at them going, who hurt you, man? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah.
So it's interesting. So if we play that back, if fear you're addicted to that feeling of fear,
Yeah.
right? So maybe some really radical practical advice is, enroll in a program. Find a support system to help you break that addiction. That fear is protecting you from something that you don't need to be protected from anymore.
Well, actually, fear is a protection mechanism, a mechanism of the ego. It's not actually, it's not you're protecting. It's your self-image that you're protecting.
Yeah.
You're protecting something that you made up.
Yeah,
Something
which is
that's,
crazy, right? Yeah.
yeah. And again, that's why I say you can definitely, if you need it, get therapy. I'm not saying don't get therapy.
Yeah.
Some people, it's about 10% of the population actually need meds to help their brain chemistry be in a state that they can function in this world,
Mhm.
you know, because they maybe have depression, or maybe, I don't know. But I'm not saying that any of those, don't do those, and just,
Yeah.
because the idea of deconstructing the person that you think you are, that's not what I'm advocating. What I'm advocating is for you to just decide who it is that you're not being, because that's the gap. This is the person I show up as every single day. And that makes me feel ashamed. That makes me feel like I haven't succeeded enough. That makes me feel like I'm behind. Like, oh my God, I got to get caught up. At my age, I should be. And at my age, I should look. And at my age, there should be this much money in the bank account. I'm a loser because I show up like the blah, 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 blah. And then there's this idea that we want to be. And then there's this gap in between there. Well, if you just understand the idea here a little bit more, and imagine that since space time is a continuum, the future and the past and the present all exist at the same time, you are actually this person in the future. It's not this person that you're striving to become, it's the person that you will become if you just identify with that a little more and then notice, wait, the person that behaves like this, these behaviors make that person, these behaviors make that person. And then you take one behavior out of here and add one behavior to here, and that builds that stair step in that gap. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So just to re-say that, just essentially pick one thing.
Pick one thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What do you, and if you are listening to this right now and you're like, well, what's he talking about? It's going to be different for you than any, like when I say this, what do you think you need to do?
Yeah.
You have a list.
Yeah.
And if I say, what do you think's getting in the way? Like, what's grabbing your attention that is a waste of your time? You have another list. So write those lists down and put one list to the side and then grab one list out of the things that I want to start doing. And then whatever that thing is, you got to break it down even smaller. Because if I want to write books, if I start out saying I'm going to write 2,000 words every single day by 9 a.m., the first time I miss that, I quit. You know? So if you're going to want to be healthier, I'm just going to make healthier choices today as a better goal than I'm going to eat perfectly or I'm going to count my macros or any of that stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, wow, that conversation went fast. So ultimately, I think out of all of the conversation that we've had, my biggest takeaway was there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be. Mm-hmm. Where you want to be, hopefully, is what you're calling success. And so if you want to get over the fear of that, pick one thing to do differently or one thing not to do. Mm-hmm. That will take you closer to that image.
And then the way I do it, the way I've done it, anytime that I find myself, I just press pause. I'm like, okay, throw everything out. I'm starting scratch. What's the one thing today? And then I document what I do. And then I show up the next week and I look at what I did and say, is that working or not? And if it's working and that thing is part of my identity, like if you have the identity that you're healthy and you work out every day, you do that. You don't have to force yourself. Yeah. You have the identity that you're a creator, you create. So once that becomes your identity, then you go back to the drawing board and go, okay, so now I'm here and I want to be here. What's the thing? And then you pick that, and it might be 1 week, 2 weeks. There's no prescribed time for something for you to put on the identity of that person that you want to be.
Yeah, I love it. So if people like identified with sort of the way that you processed this conversation, and if they're looking to kind of get out of their own way, where can they find you so that they can have a conversation?
Well, the easiest way to find me is on Facebook, because I'm on there way too much. But if they want to kind of look over some stuff and get to know me, I have soulsurferschool.com. That they can just type that in and it'll take them to a page. It'll kind of explain some stuff, and then they'll be able to get with me on any of the social medias. TS McCauley on Twitter and Instagram, you'll find me there. Or awesome. Tim McCauley on Facebook.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Tim. Do you have any final words of advice for our listeners today?
As far as fear of success, again, just change that word. You're not afraid. You're just excited. You know, right. Get excited.
Get excited. I like it. Get stoked, right?
Get stoked. Pause, get stoked, and flow, baby.
Nice. All right. Thanks so much, Tim. As always, I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon. Right. Bye.